Tony Will. Oh my gosh, I am so excited for today. I say this at the opening of all my podcasts because I just love this work that I'm doing, and I get to have such deep conversations with the people around me. And my next guest and I were just talking about that off air, and you'll get to meet him in a second. But first, you're listening to Women In, and it's a podcast that celebrates women in all walks of life and the people in their lives who are lifting them up. You will hear from all kinds of super cool people in my life, and they're going to share their stories to inspire others to support all the extraordinary women around them. This is a space to be disruptive, forward-thinking, and change agents for humankind. It is uncensored, fun, and curiosity-driven. I often get asked why I launched this podcast, how I have time to do it, and what I'm passionate about. And I can tell you I make time for this because I'm doing this to break down barriers for my kids' generation. It's equal parts about my guests and the places we came into each other's lives, whether it be the Kalamazoo Wings, Mindfulness Elevated, or Tony Will Coaching, or they happen to be in my family and friends circle. Our guest today is none other than Craig Davies. So let me read you this bio on Craig. Craig is, like me, born and raised in Kalamazoo and a graduate with a B.B.A. from WMU, Western Michigan University. Craig spent most of his career in procurement or sales of some fashion. What he really wanted was to work directly with people and to have a greater impact on his community. Eager to take his career in a new direction, Craig joined Greenleaf Hospitality in 2018 to pursue his passion for serving others. Craig is currently on the board of directors and executive committee for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Southwest Michigan. He also serves as the American Heart Association's executive committee member for the Kalamazoo County Heart Walk and is an active member of the board of directors for Discover Kalamazoo. In his spare time, Craig loves nothing more than spending time with his wife and his two sons and all their extended family. And Craig is a first-time podcaster, which I love, and thank you for being on my podcast first. Because after this, the phones are going to be ringing, buddy.
Well, no, I mean, I think we'll break the mold. I think this is the one and done, maybe, and we'll see how it goes, right, Tony?
Yeah, we'll see. So, this is just so cool, and I'm going to tell you why I invited you to be on the podcast, and then you can tell, because I love the first question about how do we meet. But Greenleaf Hospitality Group, where Craig and I both work, hosted a women's in hospitality leadership event, and the organizer, who she's going to be on my podcast too.
Oh, cool.
Maddie's going to be on. Yeah. So she hosted this event. She asked me to come speak at it, and it's the first one, right, that we're doing within Greenleaf of its kind. And Craig walks in, and he is just like full of energy, and I could tell. And your wife was there because Lindsay works for Greenleaf Hospitality Group as well. And you were just so excited for what the work that's being done to lift women up. And I looked at you, and we've worked together for a long time, but new level of admiration. Oh. And I was like, this guy, he's coming on my podcast. And I walked up to you and said, Craig, you're going to be on because you truly mean it. Like, yeah. You were so excited for this event we were putting on.
Well, it was amazing. I mean, it was really cool. I mean, the energy in that room, I had to bring energy because, I mean, the energy kind of just coming out of those doors. I mean, it was really cool to see and to finally come to fruition. I mean, it had been kind of talked about for a little bit, throughout our organization, and how do we create intentional spaces for all sorts of different diverse groups. And the Women in Hospitality Leadership was the first one, and super excited that you're going to have Maddie first and foremost, because she's obviously she's the one taking this one across the finish line and getting it going. But yeah, it was really cool, and I was just to be able to support and be there in the room with powerful people, women. Obviously it was all women, but powerful people and human beings. It was really neat. It was really cool to be a part of.
Yeah. And I love nothing more, just so, because I launched this type of network in sports, the Women in Sports Network for the ECHL. I actually took it to the National Sports Forum, so we're doing it there. Here's what I love, and I want all the men who are listening to hear this. I love it when men come to those events. I fucking love it.
I was wondering when the F-bomb was going to come out. I mean, it had to be within the first 5 minutes. There was an over-under.
Yeah. And so did you win that bet?
Yeah, of course I did.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, I did.
Yeah.
That's easy. That's easy money, Tony. Come on.
It is. I love that when men come, and you were not hesitant. You were just the poster child of lifting other women up and the advocate. So
Oh,
I just want you to know that I already respected you and admired your work and how you handle multiple, you juggle a lot in your role within Greenleaf,
mm,
but that you made time to do this and you really meant it.
mm.
And you walked into that room and you weren't the only man in there.
No, no,
Tim Raymond was there. He's
you're
going
right.
to be on my
Oh,
podcast.
nice. Good, good.
Yeah. So all of Greenleaf will be on the podcast
Eventually, right?
eventually.
Yeah, eventually.
How did we meet, Craig? Do you remember meeting? I don't even,
Oh
I
gosh.
mean,
So it's funny. I had to kind of ask, I phone a friend here on this one. And I asked Linz, I was like, I feel like I met Tony before I worked with Greenleaf. And I don't remember where. I just remember, the name and certainly the face and bravado, if you will. When I finally got to be in a room and actually interact with you on more of a work relationship level. But so I don't remember exactly when we met, but it's obviously 6 or more years ago. And been really cool to see what you've been doing over the last several years, to witness what you've been putting together. And I do remember when I first got to see you kind of in all your glory. I think it was my first year with Greenleaf, and I was invited, because being a part of the executive team, I was invited to. It was kind of like the season kickoff with all the players at Old Verdicts. And I was invited, and I knew nothing. I was rookie with Greenleaf. I didn't know anything. I don't know how these things work. It was just, all right, cool. This sounds like a really fun, exciting event. I went home and I'm like, well, I'm going to take my son. Idiot. Like, this is not a kid. This is not a family event, Craig. So I remember walking through the Burdick's hallway and walking into the space with Grayson, and I'm like, yeah, no, this isn't going to work. And I remember seeing eyes and people looking at Tim, and I just remember looking over at you, and you were just kind of controlling the room, like you're having conversations with some players, some other people. You hadn't kicked off the event yet. And I'm like, well, all right, I got to go. I can't stay here for this one. And I've been to several others since, obviously sans children. But yeah, I don't remember exactly meeting you, but every time I'm in a room with you, it's a pleasure and a privilege. So
yeah, because I knew your wife before I knew
yeah,
you, because Lindsay's been with Greenleaf, and she needs to be on the
I think
podcast forever.
19 years, I think.
Yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, she actually was spearheaded one of my. Well, everyone knows I've been married 3 times, but my second
Well,
wedding.
that's right. That's right.
She and Tim were in charge of my New Year's Eve
Wow.
reception that Mike and I had when we got married. So, but we got married months before that in Maui. That was back in 2010.
Wow. So that's before you joined GHG as well, right?
Yes.
You were
Yes.
PNC or something like that?
Yeah, I was at 2010. Yeah, I was with PNC back
Oh,
then.
right. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. But isn't it interesting how we come into each other's lives and sometimes we just don't, it's so kind of seamless
Mhm.
that we're just there and we're working together and we know each other and
Absolutely.
we're in 2 different buildings.
Yeah. Great.
And so there's that bridge that I know the executive leadership team over the years has been working to foster, because as our company grows,
Mhm.
the properties grow, and there's a lot to manage there. And
Oh,
so,
absolutely. Yeah. No
and
question.
it sounds like my reputation was preceding me a little bit.
A little bit, but like you said, I mean, you kind of nailed it right there. I mean, some of those relationships you form, some of the best ones in my life, anyways. You can't pinpoint it, because it's been whether you want to use the cliche, it's been organic, or you just you feel like you've known each other forever. However you want to pin it down. Ultimately, there's some of those relationships you just don't know exactly the moment. And then there's some relationships like, I remember exactly, you fell off that bar stool or whatever it might be. But point is that we're better off for it, for knowing each other, and we're being able to work together and witness what we are doing for our organization and our community. And so yeah.
Yeah, one of the things you and I have in common is our love for Kalamazoo. Well, we have 3 big things in common. Well, kind of 4 now, but number 1, we're both born and raised here.
That's right.
Number 2, we both graduated from Western Michigan University.
Right on.
Number 3, we both work for Greenleaf Hospitality Group.
Mhm.
How have we not crossed paths before 6 years ago?
I don't know. I'm pretty quiet. I like to stay to myself.
Number 4, we're passionate about lifting women up, right?
Absolutely.
Talk to me about your passion, like being born and raised in Kalamazoo, and then you, in your bio, I mean, you are involved in the community on several boards, and then we interface on some of the, like the K-Wing donate. to some of the work you're doing. Big Brothers Big Sisters
Sure.
brings a big outing to K-Wings games, and
Chuck a puck. Yep.
there's a ton of interface there. But talk to me about your love for Kalamazoo and why
Mm.
that is so important to you.
Oh man, obviously, when you're born and raised somebody, you have passion. You have. I mean, some people probably want to escape where they're born and raised too, but I'd say more times than not, you love where you're from, and I'm fortunate and blessed enough to come from a really great place, family. How I was raised, east side of Kalamazoo, good neighborhood, great education. But the long and short of it, Tony, is I've met a lot of great people who have had passion for it as well, and it's kind of helped fuel my passion for it, and it's kind of given me some platforms to be able to express that passion and to partner with and collaborate with folks who share that passion. Kalamazoo is so unique, and you tell people that, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's a unique name," and "Oh yeah, I've heard about that place. That isn't Stryker?" Well, yeah, it's a lot more than that. Certainly, it's a lot more than I've got a gal in Kalamazoo. But as far as the size of the community, um, I'd say per capita, we've got more arts and culture and entertainment and bang for your buck, if you will, than anywhere. And it's a very diverse, community as well. So yeah, just growing up through the ranks, I traveled in my first like 16 years of my career. I was in procurement, I was an apparel buyer. So it's funny, that's in some fashion, I was a procurement or sales in some fashion because that's what I did. I worked for a company called Bermel Enterprises. Shout out to Ed Bernard. We're going to get him to subscribe. He was one of my
Good.
first bosses out of college, and I traveled a lot. I'd go to New York, I'd go to the West Coast, I'd go to lots of different shows, and it was always so great to come back to Kalamazoo. And it's that home feeling. Don't get me wrong, but it's also just it's more than just comfort. It's the appeal. It's what you get from Kalamazoo. It's not just stagnant. It's growing. It's changing, and again, like I said, it has one of the more diverse and positive, I think, I guess, feel than most towns its size. It's really neat. So, but as far as like the philanthropic side of things, obviously, if you can love where you're from, but if you're not doing anything for it, no judgment here from me, but that's where my passion comes from. Is there's got to be effort, there's got to be intentionality around my passion, so that it does somebody some good.
Yeah. And you and I share that. I worked over the years to reduce the amount of boards I've been on, only
Mm.
because it's a lot to manage,
A good
right?
stretch,
You're
yeah.
spread thin, and I love. And that's part of what I love about the K Wings is I'm able to be help nonprofits raise money, or my staff. It's not just me, my entire
Sure,
staff, Greenleaf
sure.
Hospitality Group. That we're able to touch multiple nonprofits and give them the spotlight in different ways with jersey auctions or chuck-a-pucks or because the board work and the work of nonprofit, there's so many opportunities in Kalamazoo, but like a lot of places are asking for money, but where can we spend our time and give back in that way? It's so important,
Oh,
and you and I share that passion.
oh, no doubt. And obviously, when you're talking about how we lead, because obviously we're going to talk about leadership, and certainly some of that's really important to help those that you lead, the leaders that you lead, understand is that you can't be a part of everything, and you need to you kind of got to hone in your skill set or what you are most passionate about, so that you can be the most effective with your time. If you're on 10 different boards, my guess is you're not doing a heck of a whole lot for those 10 boards.
No,
And it's, while it might look cool in your bio or, as you list it, but, what's the actual overall impact, and how much are you really doing? I've been told a million times by all sorts of different coaches and mentors, that, you got to be really good at a few things, not okay at a lot. And the Renaissance thing doesn't really, you know, equate to results as much anymore, right? I mean, you got to really kind of focus, and um, specifically when it comes to time is finite, right? It's the one thing we don't have a lot of, right? I mean, it's not going to get we're not going to get any more time in a day.
no. Well, that's the one equalizer, right?
Yeah.
Because no matter rich, poor, young, old, we all have the same 24 hours in a day.
Hmm.
It's an equalizer.
Amen. Yep.
It's like, what are
Agreed.
we going to do with it?
Agreed. Yeah. Yep.
So the title of the podcast is Women In. I want to hear about, and you share the women in your life that have been part of what makes Craig,
Yeah.
and help you be this as successful as you are, the type of husband, father, leader, son, brother, what are all the different identities you hold. Who are these women that have helped shape you?
This is a 4-hour podcast, right?
Yeah, five
Five.
actually.
Okay, five. Perfect. Because that means I won't have to leave anybody out. All jokes aside, I mean, it first starts. You mentioned Lindsay, my wife. She is a spark plug that makes the engine of our family go, and frankly, the engine of any room she's in go. She is remarkable. She's kind of shown me how what it means to be a hard worker. Her work ethic is through the roof. But she's the greatest mom. She's a wonderful wife and sister and daughter and all those things that come along with it. Um, but she's like any of us. She's had her challenges certainly, and her resiliency, I mean, is through the roof. And she's just a really strong individual. And I honestly, there's a little sign placard, those little things that you follow, that you get from a gift from I don't know what a store it would come from, but there's one that her dad bought her, and it sits right in our living room. And it's "You'll never know how strong you are until strength is all you have left." And Lindsay really epitomizes that because she's strong, and like I'm the vulnerable, weak crier. I mean, everybody knows I'm a crier,
You
and like
are.
I'm the vulnerable, weak, and I look to her for strength. And so Lindsay, first and foremost, by far. Growing up, I had three siblings, an older brother, and then I was a middle child between two sisters, Carrie, Mari, and I'll tell you what, growing up between two sisters, they're badasses, and I mean, like I would not mess. I'd take both of them into a bar fight with me any day. I mean, they are strong, working moms. They do it all. They plan everything, they do everything, and they've got great supportive husbands. But I mean, they run the show, and so growing up with them, keeping me honest, keeping me in line has certainly made me, I think, who I am today. Um, and then you obviously my mother. And it's funny I said mother because the other day I was just talking to somebody. I don't call her mother, I call her mom because I'm a mama's boy, through and through. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she went to Western, fight on graduate there as well. But she was a teacher, and she decided she wanted to stay home with her four kids, and that was her calling, and it was great. But she did it all. My dad traveled quite a bit for his work. He was he was in sports, so I mean you can relate. And so my mom would tow all four kids to the little league fields, four different games. Sometimes a baby until I mean. So she held it all together. She ran the household. She ran our neighborhood. Frankly, she was the prayer warrior. She was the lady. Nancy was the one you went to if you needed something. And so she taught me how to love, I think. So definitely my mom. And then like I can go back. My favorite teachers. My first boss out of college. Actually, my college job. I was a manager at Treat Street. And the woman who owned that place, Julie, I mean, she was phenomenal. I mean, she was incredible to run that business. She was kind of retired, and that was her retirement job, was running Tree Street. But working alongside her and seeing what the strength she put forth to run a business, small business at that, and employ a bunch of high school, college kids. So yeah, I mean, you name it. I think throughout my life, it's like I constantly think about the women who have shown me how to be who I am. And I don't mean the man that I am, although they have helped shape that, right? And how to be a good husband and how to be a good father. But I mean, ultimately, just kind of given me opportunities and provided me space to grow and develop and learn. So I mean, my life has been influenced by females and women more than uh, that I would also say men in some cases. So, funny story going. Um, I had no men present at my birth. So
Really?
my dad was traveling for work, and so I was 2 weeks late, so it's my fault. That's what I hear. But
Oh, Craig.
um, I give my dad crap for it all the time. But it's kind of a funny story going back. My mom, I was born in Borges, so I was a gorgeous, gorgeous baby, as they said back in the day.
I have
And
never heard that.
yeah, too bad the gorgeous thing didn't stick around. But my mom's best friend, Mary, still best friends with her. was there with my mom. And back then, Borges used to do a dinner for the parents, who just or for the parent, who just had a baby, get them out of that room. And my mom and Mary got so many funny looks at Borges, Catholic hospital back in the day, two ladies with short hair, having dinner after giving birth, and but so
I
Mary's
love this.
it's so good. It's so good. And we talk about it all the time. And Mary is actually my godfather. I call her my godfather because I didn't have I didn't have a male that my parents felt would be, my godfather, I guess. But she was a disciplinarian, Mary was. And so she was my mom's best friend. But if you gave my mom any guff, like Mary was like her bouncer or like her her muscle, if you will.
Her
So
sister.
yeah, exactly. Or they were sisters. Oh, absolutely. So
Yeah.
I mean, I've got aunts. You name it. I mean, even going back to my grandma Ione, who was the toughest lady I've ever met in my life. Who some couldn't stand, but I got along with her great. So yeah, lots of ladies. And then current date. I mean, 7 of my leaders that run my teams are women.
They
Uh,
are. They
yeah, and
are. You got a badass team of women.
yeah, I wouldn't trade them for anybody. I mean, they're phenomenal. So couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Do you want to? Can you rattle off all 7 names right now so they can?
Oh my, absolutely. So you got, I mean, first Denise is my revenue manager. She oversees our reservations team. She's been with us she's been with this company since before our ownership owned it, or at
Mhm.
least with the property. So her wisdom and knowledge is vast. You've got Melissa Fierro in the front office. She oversees my front office operations for the hotel. Rhiannon Zielinski and Julie Fields upstairs running my housekeeping team. You've got Ashley Ferguson running Blush. She's a dynamo. I mean, she's been doing this for a long time, and she just comes up with ideas in her sleep. I mean, she is just a walking, breathing, uh, just machine as it pertains to running a business and running it really damn well. I've got Kelsey Zondervan, who's one of my newest leaders on the team as well. So I mean, I can't. Gosh, Laura Ann, my director of sales.
Don't forget
Who
her.
No, don't forget her because she is out there on the trail. She is drumming up business, and she's changed the way we consider our products. And while we valued our product before, she has said, all right, look, we're going to push rate. We're going to go out there and we're going to say, hey, we're going to make you say no. I mean, here's what we've got. It's the best damn hotel in Kalamazoo, and we think in West Michigan.
I know because I had one of those meetings with her.
She, I mean, if I want to take negotiation, it's going to be from Laura Ann, that's for sure, because
Yeah.
man, she doesn't back down to anybody. She's this, tiny. I mean, she can't weigh more than 110 pounds, blonde, and she'll over the table, she'll make you weep.
Oh
And
yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah. When I met with her, I'm like, I got to meet with this one while she's new and fresh.
oh yeah,
Because I was like, I got to get this rate for an event that we're hosting in 2025 for the league, and I'm like, I know how cheap the teams within the league can be, and I'm like, I gotta make sure we make this happen, and
yeah.
she did not disappoint, and I have so much respect for that. Like I love the women, like just hearing all the women in your life
Mm.
and learning more about you love strong women, and not all men can say that,
Oh yeah.
but you do because you're surrounded by that, and you choose to be surrounded by that, which makes you even better as a
Oh,
leader.
absolutely. I mean, what's the cliche saying? A rising tide, raises all ships or whatever. A strong woman next to me is going to make me strong too. I mean, it's not going to make me look weaker. I ultimately, what as it comes to diversity of thought, as it comes to shared, the life experiences that they've, been through. I don't have those experiences. I never will. And so, if I'm not listening to them and putting them in places of decision making and stakeholdership, then I'm doing a lot of us a disservice, especially myself as a leader, because I'm not going to, gain anything from not allowing those women to be in those places.
You mentioned that you're a crier,
Oh
and
yeah,
I want to tell a story real quick. So your wife won Manager of the Year for
oh yeah,
Greenleaf Hospitality Group. It was about a year and a half ago.
yep,
And you did you read? Did I can't remember if you had the mic or, but you started crying,
yeah.
and then you don't know this, but then I started crying.
Are you a crier when you see people cry too? Oh
Yeah.
man, I don't even know you. I don't have to know you. If you're crying, I'm going to start crying.
Exactly.
Oh,
And it was because here's the thing. You were so proud of her,
hmm,
and you were just and again, it goes back to what I said earlier. Like, you're so genuine, and she is such a hard worker, and just to see your emotion come out in such a just a beautiful space and freely, because you're a leader in this
oh
organization.
yeah,
Like, people, Craig's up there, y'all. So he's up there. And he's crying in front of all of us, and I have such mad respect for that. So that I'm crying because he's crying because he loves his wife so much,
hmm,
and I'm like, this guy's awesome. And I love that you're not afraid
no,
to be just vulnerable, because I struggle with vulnerability, and
yeah.
you're not, and you're just out there crying. I love it.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. That means a lot, Tony. And honestly, I had a moment right there where I felt like I was in that scene in Jerry Maguire where, he's telling the guy that's interviewing and he's not going to get the, and he starts crying, and he's like, I wasn't going to do this work, whatever. Oh my gosh.
Cuba Gooding Jr.,
Oh yeah,
yes.
and he's like just sitting there, and I mean, I don't have the gold chains or the bare chest right now. You don't want that. None of your viewers want that. Um, but no, you almost had me going again because yeah, I mean, it just being out, obviously being proud of my wife, certainly, but you mentioned, crying and being vulnerable. Yeah, that's who I am, and I have no problem, saying who I am. And I think that, if we express or at least we model, that type of behavior as leaders, hopefully those will start to go, okay, well, he did it, and if it's a good thing, right? We certainly don't want to model, negative behaviors. So if we're looking for positive things out of our folks, or at least creating an environment where somebody might feel vulnerable, or, feel able to be vulnerable, I feel like we get a hell of a lot more done when we're ourselves, our authentic selves, when we're able to, just break through the BS and just be who we are. Um, we don't have to hide behind personas or the masking of who we need to be in corporate America or whatever it might be. You say, yeah, Craig's a leader for the organization and high up there. I don't know. Obviously, it's subjective, but yeah, I want people to know that I care for her and I love her. I mean, that's I use the word love a lot in my place of work, and people are like, wait, did he just love? Like, are we supposed to say love at work? And now, yeah, I mean, be appropriate, people. Let's not get weird, but like, no, I mean, I love my people, and that's that emotion, that care, that if it's not real, they'll know, and if you're not doing it, they'll recognize it. So,
This is the topic that we talk about at the leadership level about psychological safety, and that's what this is, right?
right? Oh yeah,
It's creating psychological safety, and you and I are very close to the same age. But I remember working when I started my career 25 years ago. This was not the culture of working America.
yeah,
You talk about your mom working in banking. That's where I started my career, and I spent 13 years there. So there were two Tonys, right? There was banking Tony, and
sure.
I was working my way up. And so, yeah, you didn't. It was, remember that old adage, you check your emotions
At the
at the
door, yeah,
door.
yeah,
Yeah, you didn't bring it to work,
right.
right?
Mhm.
And that is not the culture that we have changed at Greenleaf,
Right.
or we are. And that is one of the things that I value most,
Hmm.
that I get to just be me. And it was said earlier, like, there's a reputation that precedes me, but I get to be who I am,
Sure.
and good, bad, and different, right? And you get to be who you are, and we work better because of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, we're better producers.
Absolutely. Look at the results, right? I mean, and look at the data. Look at, some of the best things have come out of those individuals that feel comfortable, that feel like they can be themselves, that have that psychological safety. I mean, it's not just my, opinion, right? It's not just happening here at Greenleaf. I think, it shows, studies out there show, obviously, the workplace environments and the cultures that have that type of feeling, and how does it feel to work there? That's a question that I ask my folks. How does it feel to work on your team? Because we need to know that. And if it doesn't feel good, well, then you're probably not doing it right. And if it does feel good, then you're probably, doing some pretty successful things, and you're going to have some better results because of it. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. But look at your last several years, alcohol free, and the things you've decided to do to be your authentic self. And like, I mean, I was thinking in my head this morning, I was like, Tony has done it again. And I'm like, look, just because it's fun to see all the cool stuff that you are a part of, that you're leading, that you're driving. It's not like you're not a follower. You are, on that forefront, and that's really neat to see, and witness and cheer you on, from the sidelines. And frankly, I want to get in the game every once in a while too. But this is not necessarily a game for me per se. But
Yeah. Yeah, and it's hard sometimes to be like that. Like when I posted on day 80 of not drinking. So what I was doing there was strategic in the sense that I know me,
mm,
and if there's a loophole, you know who's going to climb through that
oh
damn
yeah,
thing?
yep,
Tony will.
I'm
Tony
right
will.
there with
She,
you.
yeah, I will climb. So I'm like, if I talk about it publicly and be vulnerable, this is going to help me grow because I didn't want to, right? I
Mhm.
didn't want to I didn't want to stop drinking.
Sure.
Although I did. It was just weird cognitive dissonance. But I didn't, but I didn't want to talk about it because heaven forbid people knew I was human,
Hmm.
right? And so when I did that, it was so freeing and terrifying all at the same time. But I found in life that if I'm scared or it feels hard, then that's the direction I should go. And it's so rewarding. And it's people like you that allow me to just do these things and hope to God I'm not setting my career on fire.
No, no, it's the exact opposite. You have lit the rocket fuel. I mean, that's the fire that is burning. And how do people come up to you and tell you like, hey, because you did this, I was kind of inspired. I mean, so look at that. I mean, that not only has it been something that's been beneficial for you in your life, and I'm sure, certainly your personal life, but I'm sure you've inspired those through your career and through what you've been able to do for the ECHL and for the K Wings and for the sports industry, and as a whole. So kudos to you. I mean, that's again that you're living proof. This, it's just neat to be a part of it and see it happen. So
Yeah, and it a lot of see I get so I coach on the side. I have a coaching business where I
mhm,
help other people reduce or remove alcohol. I also do professional development coaching
sure.
to help people midlife who feel stuck in their careers and to try and find what you and I have found in Greenleaf, right?
Mm,
And the hundreds of people we work with. Like there are companies out there. If you can find the right ones that align with your personal core values,
absolutely.
and will allow you to thrive both in work and outside of work.
Mhm.
Oh, right? Like
It,
you and I are a living testament of it. And these companies exist out there, but really it goes back to knowing who you are and what your core values are. And
amen.
your bio is full of your core values, right? Community, family,
Mhm.
things of that nature.
Yep, spot on. Yeah.
I have asked you like 0 questions from the list I gave you
Oh, we could do this all day, right?
all day. So, I'm a big reader.
Oh yeah.
Do you read, Craig? We don't talk books. I don't think
I,
you and I do, but we're going to now.
no, I'm the biggest disappointment for you in this question. I don't read books. I really don't. I never have. I'm more of a quick hitter. Article here and there. Melissa Firo asks me all the time in one-on-one. She's like, "So where did you learn that?" And I'm like, honestly, I don't know. I'm a sponge with people. I like talking to people. I like learning from them. I've just never been a huge reader and sitting down and cracking a book. I have read books, for whatever reason here and there. But yeah, I mean, I'm not for you or like Cyril Chevy or, those folks that like love reading. They're looking at me and they're like, what? You don't,
I no, I love this answer. You are the first person to
I
tell
don't read.
me I don't read, and I'm fucking in love with this. It's an F moment because you're just being real, right? Not everyone wants to read their age every year.
Oh, yeah, I can't. It's not my thing. I just am not a reader. And I mean, like I said, I never have been. Even as a kid, really didn't read a lot of books. Through college and whatnot, never read. But I've stumbled across some books that have really been meaningful. So maybe there's something to it there. Maybe I need to have you coach me and get a little bit more disciplined in finding that pathway forward. But I think one of the more recent books I've read that really it was obviously meaningful for what I do. It was Winning on Purpose by Frank
Oh,
Reichhold, and he's the grandfather of Net Promoter Score. I mean, he's the really. I mean, he worked at may still work for Bain Capital, but his whole premise was really shook the capitalism mindset of money, 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 and he really shifted towards loyalty, loyalty, loyalty. The money will come after the fact. You really have to love your customers more than the profit that they might provide you. And so it's a good book. It's very, he's a numbers guy. It's very analytical. It's very, but some of the testimonials and some of the stories that he talks about with folks that companies he helped turn around or think differently. It's really neat to read those stories and see. Oh, okay, all right, like, all right, that makes sense. But I mean, that's Net Promoter Score. NPS is the acronym. Is something that in the hotel industry and in lots of different industries you're measured on. Again, how many people are out there promoting you versus detracting from your business. A 1 to 6 is considered a detractor. A 7 to 8 would be neutral, and then 9 or 10 is a promoter. And that's the ranking system. And so it's how likely are you to promote our business? And that's a tough question. That's an emotional, psychological question when you ask that one, because you may have had a decent dinner, but am I going to tell my father about it? Am I going to tell my best friend about it? I don't know. Maybe. So now I'm a 7 or 8. I'm not a promoter. I'm a neutral. And so this book just kind of goes on and tells about the premise and why loving your customers is the most important thing. And that is, you might have to make it right. You might have to do programs that are going to keep them coming back time and time again. That might feel like a lost leader. It might feel like, oh man, is this going to turn around? Well, yeah, because the data, again, he worked at Bain Capital, and that's what private capital investors don't typically like to look at things that don't have return, right? And so that was a pretty decent book. It's more analytical.
This is the first time I've heard about it. So it got written down. It's going to go on my list, and I'll read it.
Winning on Purpose. It's a good one.
Did you read Unreasonable Hospitality?
You know what? I read excerpts, if you will. Yeah, so there was obviously a book club here, and I encouraged. It's funny because I don't read, but I encourage people they like to read. Like, hey, get this book club. I'm like that person that's. It's like I don't eat meat, right, Tony? Like, hey, Tony, here's a steak, but I know you don't eat meat, But I could just picture you like, hey, you should try this fillet.
I probably would.
Because you remember what it was like, right?
Yeah. I do.
But long story short, I mean, yes, I heard the story. I mean, the guy, I mean, he's a restaurateur, right? I mean, he, the crazy ideas that they would come up with, and yeah, you got to push the limits sometimes because how you can differentiate.
Exactly.
I mean,
so really you don't read, but you have read.
Yeah.
And
I dabble.
You dabble. Yes. You
I
dabble. He's a reading dabbler, and that's okay. More people are reading dabblers than they're like me being crazy and doing.
Well, I mean, podcasts, right? Podcasts or TED Talks. Is it Greenleaf that was talking about how many TED Talks he watches? I mean, yeah.
Look at that. You've been listening to my podcast.
I have.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. So one of the questions I like to ask my guests, because you mentioned my alcohol-free journey, and this is one I'm actually going to do a separate episode, a solo episode on why I chose to stop drinking, because I get asked that question quite a bit, and I thought, well, I'll do a podcast where I'm just talking and I'll tell that story. But that was something I changed my mind about, and there's this belief sometimes that we're just hardwired how we're hardwired, and we don't change. And that was like back in the 80s, neuroplasticity was kind of discovered, and how the brain can fire new neurons. And there's a book on that if you're interested.
Just send me the cliff notes, will you?
Yeah, but then there's also things. I'll just tell. Yeah, there's a book called the Power of Neuroplasticity. There you go.
Yeah.
And recommend that to someone else.
I will. And when they ask me if I read it, I'll say, my friend Tony did.
Yeah, exactly.
He recommended it to me.
But like, we change our mind about things all the time. Like, I changed my mind about, what did I change my mind about recently? Like something dumb. Like I was sharing on one of my podcasts where I'm going to start collecting something. I don't collect anything. So I started collecting gnomes.
Oh, where's she going with this? Is this like, all right, Tony's got a stamp collection all of a sudden, or what? No.
Yeah, who knows? And then I'm going to have a podcast all about collecting stamps and gnomes. I don't,
so are you still collecting gnomes?
I am. I just started this year.
All right, it's good to know. All right, everybody on listening.
But the gnomes that cover the eyes, and because I didn't know there were multiple gnomes.
Oh, there's like different families of gnomes.
Yes.
Okay.
The hat has to cover the eyes.
Every time I talk to you, I learn something new. I mean, most of the time it's something a little bit more, life impacting than different gnome families. But hey, we'll take it.
Listen, I can be as deep or as shallow as you need me to be.
Oh, good.
I also changed my mind about like working out. Not that I work out a lot, but I don't. After I broke my ankle,
Mhm.
which you witnessed, like me trying to lug around that boot in the winter.
That
Um,
scooter, you had that scooter down though. I
I
mean,
did. Oh
yeah.
man, I was on fire. But I changed my mind about like always having to run on the treadmill because I'm like, no, you can power walk and get different benefits, right? And so these are three very different examples about where I changed my mind about. What have you changed your mind about? Deep or shallow?
Yeah, no, I mean it's kind of deep. I think a lot of us I do anyways. I like to be a part of things. I like to be involved in things. I like to be, whether it be a decision, whether it be a party, it doesn't matter. Like I want to, I like to be involved, and I'm a social, butterfly, if you will. And what I've changed my mind lately of is that I don't have to be, and it's not the importance of that has weaned, if you will, for me, and it's been hard. It's had to be. I've had to make the decision. I've had to talk myself in certain scenarios, like, no, Craig, like you have other things you need to think about or worry about, and a lot of it stemmed from executive coaching, frankly, but and what I needed to focus on so that I could improve and elevate myself. But that was really hard because I do like to be involved. It is fun to know what's happening and to be in the know, right? And that's been a big shift for me mentally. But listening to Ryan's podcast the other day, Creelan that you had on, him talking about his oldest son was like, dude, we have the exact same scenario going on. Like my oldest son Grayson is sweet kid, awesome kid, just not into sports. And I am a sports nut. I will watch any sport, any sporting event, go to any sporting event, you name it. I love sports, and I love coaching my kids as well. And so this might be the last year that Grayson plays baseball, and because he's not into it. He's there, but he's just not there. And so instead of coaching baseball, I'll be coaching robotics coming up here in the fall. Yeah, slide off. What?
I'm following you, but this is what I love. You're like, you know what? I don't know. Do you know a lot about
I
robotics?
know zero. I mean, I know robots do things. I mean,
Right.
that we can program them if we're smart enough. I'm not. So,
I didn't want to assume you didn't, but this is what I love. You're like, I'm going to adapt because it's all about being close to your son
oh,
and loving
yeah.
what he loves.
Amen. Yeah. And honestly, I mean, we'll have to try the chess thing like Ryan did too. But yeah, so that's going to be happening. So that is it right there. I mean, I wanted my son to be a baseball player. I wanted him to be, I loved baseball as a kid. I love, but it's like, all right, I love my son. I love him more. So whatever he'd like to do, that's what I'm going to try to do. If it's a positive thing and he's excited to do it, then let's do it.
These are two huge things, and I'm glad you went deep instead of shallow on that answer. But because I too, as I've migrated through my career, have had to work on saying no,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not easy.
No,
It's not easy because we, as creatures of
oh, yeah.
that, you and I get energy from people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And some people it's an energy drain to be around people.
Right.
But people like you and I like to be around people, and so we want to be involved in things. We want to be in the room. And the problem is if we're in the room, sometimes we're not in other rooms,
Correct.
which we need to be in, like home
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, right?
Yep.
Like that's part of my challenge. And when my husband will sit me down deep into the hockey season and say, Tony, it'd be nice to see you, right? And I get that. Like
Yeah.
Joel Martin was my podcast guest yesterday,
Oh,
and we
cool.
were talking about that, right? Like,
Marty.
oh, what a gem,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And just what it takes to understand what rooms we need to be in and when, and it takes a lot of maturity and wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
and then sliding over to being a parent. Boy, nothing will break you down more.
Oh yeah. Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
Yeah, yeah. It's not easy. It's not
No.
easy. But that's why we do this work. Like why you're working so hard in our community, right? Why
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to remove barriers for women in all areas, and so it's easier for the next generation coming through.
Spot on.
Where can people find you, Craig?
As boring as it can be sometimes, LinkedIn. LinkedIn's is the jam for me. Reach out on LinkedIn. Craig Davies. It's pretty straightforward and easy to find. But downtown Kalamazoo, obviously, we talked about it earlier. The Radisson, the heart of Kalamazoo, as I like to call it. Come on down. I'll be downtown, pretty much every single day, most of the time. And so, yeah, you can find me there. But yeah, those are the two spots you can find me outside of normal social media. But LinkedIn would be a good spot if you want to connect.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not as great at LinkedIn as Cyril Chevy might be, but I try to get on there and share a few things here and there and
She's a rock star.
Oh, she's so good at it. I mean, she's great at everything she does.
Well, yeah, and the podcast, which we didn't know. I mean, she was my second interview. She and Josh, my husband, they are neck and neck right now with the most listens.
That's awesome. Well, yeah,
neck and neck.
Well, she's so well known and plugged in and knows so many people and not just here in our community, but I mean in the industry, whether it be the sports now but marketing and so forth. So plus she's great to look. I mean, she's so smart.
Oh my God,
she
so
is
smart.
One of the more intelligent people I've ever been around. She's my hero. I mean, I tell her, like, she helps keep me in line when it comes to certain things that I need to do because I'm terrible with structure. Like, I can't create my own structure. And if somebody hands me a structure, I'm pretty darn good with it. And so she keeps, I think, Tim and I most of the time, or the whole executive team for that matter.
Yeah. She and I bond. We love structure. I mean, did you listen to our podcast together?
I did. And it was like, oh my gosh, I have to follow this. This isn't like, I don't know. Like it was perfect. It was like you guys just like, I mean, gosh, it was like a script and you guys, I don't know, it was perfect. You guys are amazing.
Well, our first meeting though, that was
hilarious.
Well, and I said to her, I want you to be honest because not every meeting is like, oh, Tony, we met you and it was great. No, people think I'm a bitch sometimes. I'm not trying to be, but I've changed.
Yeah.
I've changed. So, Craig, we're going to wrap this up, but you made it through your first podcast. It does not seem like this was your first. You are a pro.
Oh man, it's easy talking to you, Tony, and talking about this subject. I mean, it's good. It's stuff that we have to keep talking about. So, obviously, not just on podcasts. Considering to uphold Maddie and support her and the Women in Hospitality Leadership Program we got going on, this employee resource group. So, thank you for having me. This has been marvelous. Love chatting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll see you soon at work. For those of you who are looking to find me, I'm not hard to find either. KalamazooWings.com, MindfulnessElevated.com, TonyWillCoaching.com, LinkedIn, Instagram. I answer any inquiries that come my way. So please don't hesitate to reach out, and I'll see you on the next episode.